one was...
The monster always comes back, finds a way back.
Yeah.
Can you touch the next slide? Thank you. That's thesis 2, the monster always escapes. And then next slide. Next slide.
Okay, so Cohen said that there always is a monster as long as there's a social event going on. And
there would always be a monster with the presence of a hero. For example, for instance, let's say Avengers. There are multiple heroes and there are multiple bad guys, right?
Right.
We have Thor, we have Iron Man, we have all those people, and we have the bad guys. You know?
And so, as long as you're going, I guess back to my other point, that as long as there's a social issue, the monster can okay, they're not always going to be conquered because even if you push it under the rug, it'll still come back, and as a new social issue will always pop up. So there will always be something going on. So I guess our monster could be the debt crisis or something. Yeah, we could eventually try and solve it, but it's never going to be officially you can sort of solve it, but you can't officially resolve it because things will just build on top of that, and then it'll just the monster will just keep coming back.
Yeah, going off Maddie's point, I'll give an example actually. The monster, let's say, it's more like a virus. When we find a cure, it can always just find a new way out. It's that it can self-develop a new kind of virus, or getting adapted to the cure we invented. So that monsters like that as well. I mean, it's sort of when we figure out a way out to go defend it or go against it or destroy it. Next time, what it's going to do is just evolve itself, and then it's going to become stronger, more intelligent, and harder to defeat. And it is within our culture, it's within our history and all that. I mean, it's involving historical issues, social issues, and cultural issues. And it's not that easily conquerable, as I said earlier, because it always comes back, it always gets into this new form and stuff, and it is always able to find a way out. Let's say...
For example, in Dracula, we're going to go ahead and relate it.
Next place, please. Thank you.
Dracula, when Mina was getting attacked, the mist and the gang of guys or whatever came in, Dracula made the mist come around him, and then he just escaped. He got away with attacking Mina and awful things that happened. He got away with that, and he escaped. And he does it numerous times. And then another example is Jonathan Harker could essentially escape the monster because he finally gets away from Transylvania, but the monster always comes back because Dracula ends up going to where Harker lives and is attacking his friend and then eventually his wife, so he can never truly escape.
And Dracula, he's essentially 2,000 years old, and being able to actually survive for 2,000 years, I don't think it's only because he's a vampire. It's also because of his intelligence and his ability to adapt to every culture evolution and new ideas emerges, and he gets himself adapted to it so that he can actually adapt, fit into the society instead of just look like a pariah who doesn't even interact with people. And that's the main reason that he can actually survive for 2,000 years. He constantly improves himself, and that is why he is practically invincible, because he's not one of those old stereotypical people who just stays with his old ideas. He is willing to adapt new ideas, and he is willing to change himself accordingly. So that's the good part about Dracula, and that is how he survives. And he somehow manages to escape from jeopardy every time. For example, he set up this master plan to go to London, and he tries to find this experiment to guess how do you say
When
that?
he became a vampire?
Yeah.
He just experimented it, then he ended up becoming a vampire, and got it.
So that, and then his plan fails, but he always has this backup plan that can make sure that he can escape from it, so that he won't actually die. So That's like the smart part with Dracula. So that's basically thesis 2, basically saying that the monster always finds a way out. It always escapes because it evolves and it's always kind of smart. Can you go to the next slide, please? And thesis 7 is basically saying that the monster essentially comes back eventually.
Yeah, it always comes back, but it never actually really leaves because it leaves one body, it doesn't just, it's always present, it just leaves one body and could be another one. Like Dracula, he is a man sometimes, but then he leaves through that form, but then he always comes back as a man.
I was trying to get a joke was that the original picture says I will be back, and then the next slide is basically saying psych, but sorry, doesn't really work here. What I'm trying to say is that humans create monsters. Alright, that's
So
humans create monsters. Monsters are essentially like social issues, and once one problem is solved, human somehow like creates this new problem to be solved. That's why you can also say it's like a monster that eventually comes back over time. And as I said earlier, it's kind of like the first thesis, because like these two theses are actually related to each other. Monsters constantly innovates itself. It evolves and becomes stronger.
Cohen said at one point that monsters are our children, and with that, for our children, they're gonna help evolve them. We're gonna help shape them and everything, and like we make them who they are and what they are. So monsters would then be our fears, our social issues, everything compiled together. But it's because of what we create. It's not, they don't just happen. They just
Happens because of
like
things.
we nourish or like we feed them, I guess. If that makes sense.
And the good thing about monsters is actually that they actually stimulates humans to change. I mean, being able to defeat a monster, a social issue, is basically saying that humans are overcoming an obstacle. And by overcoming that obstacle, it is basically changing. Us humans are changing into like this, basically becoming better self. So yeah. And the relevance to Dracula would be, as we know, Dracula always comes back because he is able to innovate himself and then become a stronger vampire. And
Again, like when he always comes back, like with Parker, Dracula still managed to make himself appear again in Parker's life, and then with his attacks and everything, like, he made himself with Lucy. He continually kept coming back to her until she eventually died. And so the monsters can either take over you, or you can defeat them, which I don't know.
And then the point we had earlier was that humans created by humans create monsters, and then Dracula was essentially created by human nature. I think in the book it implies that Dracula created himself, but before Dracula was a vampire, he was a human, so that we can just say that humans created vampires.
It's just like the physical, he actually physically created himself to become a monster.
And yeah, Dracula constantly develops skills because to adapt and then to become stronger,
And
to
then
become more invincible.
And then again, with the catalyst for change, with like Van Helsing, he just, over time, he eventually like figured out what vampires were and everything. And then with that, he got Seward and everybody. Like, when this monster is present, they need to change the way they think and everything. So, again, they changed their original beliefs. They were like, no, this could never ever happen. Like, it's completely irrational. But, in fact, it is true.
Yeah, and monster is more like a thing that it's more like a thing that humans at first choose not to believe in, and later on, when facts are put in front of them, they are forced to, accept the fact, and then adapt to it, and then change themselves. So, yeah, I think that's basically our thesis.
Excellent. Thanks, Eddie.